Yo, welcome to my channel. What's up? This is Dobley speaking. So today I'm going to talk about Xi Jinping versus Trump Final, Rare Earth. Now the CCP China demands Trump's complete capitulation. Okay? Actually, this is actually from, for this thread, right? This topic is from x.com and for the account named Megatron, and he says they want a removal of all U.S. tariffs and export control measures ever imposed in exchange or lifting the ban on rare materials, or from WSJ, right? Wall Street Journal. So basically, we've been talking about, the war between U.S. and CCP China. I'm not gonna name it China. I will name it CCP China, because CCP China, in my mind, is not a real China. It's like a kidnapped version of China, or evilized, demonetized, or demonized China, something like that. So I think it's really important for us to understand that, China does have a deck of cards in its hand. And for the ace card, that is a rare earth material. So many people, they've been thinking about, well, rare earth, isn't that pretty common in the world? Yes, it is common. Actually, we have a big reserve in Australia. We have some reserve in America as well, and we also have some big reserve in Europe. So rare earth material itself is not that rare, literally, it's not that rare. However, there are two reasons why most countries cannot develop a rare earth industry chain. It's because, first of all, they are afraid of contamination. Because the rare earth material, you have to extract them, you have to mine them. The mining process and extraction process would produce a lot of toxic gases and toxic, solid contaminations like mercury, like a lot of cancer-causing, cancergenous materials like that. So this is pretty bad for the human body and for the, animal circle, so even for the plants. So that's why America, just stopped the rare earth program many decades ago already. In the old times, right, like World War II or 1950s, 1960s, America used to have a very big rare earth industry. But then in the 70s and 80s, it's gradually shut down all the rare earth program. And in the 90s, it just almost shut down every, the last remaining rare earth program, and began to totally rely on China. In China, the government is led by the CCP, that's a CCP, centralized government with a lot of corrupt officials, but, nevertheless, they still have pretty strong hands in leading, and they do not care about people's lives. They do not care about, contaminating the river system, underground water system. They don't care about that. So they are willing to take the risk, right? And they don't really care about the risk that much, to be honest, right? And then China has been investing on that technology for the extraction. They borrow some ideas from Russian experts as well as some Western experts, right? And they develop their own ideas as well. So over time, they had registered a lot of patents. They have done a lot of their individual research. They actually developed a very well-developed rare earth industry, and they have very good refining technology, extraction technology. The contamination still occurs, right? But not as severe as before. So the contamination is also for a certain degree under control, right? Not completely under control, right? Still pretty, so many pollutants to our environment. It's pretty bad for the local people, bad for China though. But, just like I said, the common, ordinary Chinese citizens were treated like garbage, right? They're treated like slaves. The government officials, they don't really care too much about common people's life. I don't care about, your life because I'm an official, that's what in their mind, because they never eat something cheap. They always eat the organic stuff, come from somewhere else, right? So even for the local officials who are in control of the local, like rare earth mining industry, they do not eat the local produce. They are so smart because they know the soil over there is terribly polluted. Okay, so because of these two reasons, right, China is willing to sacrifice economical cost, the environmental cost, right? And then China is willing to invest heavily with the country's power of the rare earth industry, because China do understand that they need to grasp this, competitive edge. So with the combination of these two factors, nothing the West can compare with that. First of all, Western countries are afraid of the pollution, so America, they cannot just, they say they have some rare earth material, rare earth mines, right, in California. Wow, think about that. If you extract the rare earth materials, that's going to pollute the air. That's going to pollute the river system. And we will receive tons of complaints, environmental complaints, and big lawsuits, right? And that will sue your asses off, right? So basically, not a single, California official is in favor of the rare earth industry, massive development in California. So, well, they say you have some rare earth resource reserve, and you have the rare earth industry in Australia. Yes, indeed, but the magnitude of their rare earth industry cannot never be compared with that of China's, of course, right? They're on a much smaller scale, and they still have to take a lot of environmental concerns, right? They have to really take these environmental factors into their consideration, right? So their factories cannot be that massive, as China is, and they have to take care of the filtration system and the post-production decomposition system, and that will cost them a lot more than the Chinese industry could have, right? And then we're talking about much more expensive labor force, much more expensive manpower, and Chinese people who work diligently but cheaply. There's nothing Western countries can compete with the CCP demons, right? You can never compete them because you have to acknowledge that demons are demons, but demons are powerful. Like I said, now I'm an asylum seeker in America, right? I would acknowledge the powerfulness of CCP, but I'm fearful of CCP and I want away from it. I criticize it openly. But you have to, in order to squash your enemy, you have to know your enemy, right? This is from the Sun Tzu's Art of War. I think many of you guys know that already, right? We have to understand what are the strengths of CCP and what are the weaknesses of CCP in order to squash CCP to maintain the world peace forever, Anyway, so now think about this. Donald Trump has a deck of cards, right? That is tariff and also the chips, right? Like TSMC, he demands TSMC relocate from Taiwan to California or somewhere in the Middle Western regions of America, right? And Samsung, right? Or some Korean or some Japanese factories as well to relocate to America. And Donald Trump has the powerful chips. That's the highest technology, like the NVIDIA, right? Jensen Huang, right? But the thing is that, China has also been developing their own chip industry, and they are trying to circumvent the traditional technology. So they probably will not need ASML in the future because they are trying to invent an entirely new way to create a chip. So that chip manufacturing process might be very different from the traditional way. So they don't really need the chip jail, the jail they used to import from Japan. But now the Japanese has also put a very high quota limitation, right? Like export quota, something like that. Just like Americans being limiting their chip export to China, especially for the high-end NVIDIA chips, right? Think about that. So America used to have two deck of cards, right? We have the chips and we have the tariffs, and America is still the largest consumer destination in the world, right? Consuming country. However, think about that. China now is grasping one of the biggest cards, in the world, for the history, like economic history of the world, right? That's the rare earth industry. For the reasons I mentioned, the two reasons that I mentioned above, right? So now China said to Trump, right? Xi Jinping said to Trump, if you want to, for us to unlift the rare earth export ban, first you have to unlift all the tariffs that you impose on China, right? You have to unlift all the regulations, all the kind of NVIDIA chip regulations, this and that. You allow all the high-end chips to export to China to aid the Chinese AI development. And also to expedite the Chinese local chip industry manufacturing process, invention process, right? So think about that. This is terrible. This is horrible because CCP is, spiritually kidnapping America and kidnapping many Western nations in exchange of higher, power of speech. Like, they want to leverage because they use the rare earth material as a leverage, the way of leverage, right? This is horrible. So think about the China now, the CCP China. I'm sorry, excuse my language. It's not a real China. It's a demonized CCP China. The CCP China now has supersonic missiles, right? Hypersonic missiles. They have a lot of advanced nuclear warhead, right? They have a lot of advanced laser weapon technology, right? Even the satellite technology. So think about that. All these advancements, and especially for the drones, right? The massive drone troops, right? Like, how can we squash evil power like that, right? I think that America should be more, having more confidence with all other race nations, including Japan and Korea, because even though they are the Asian people belong to Asian country, but they have the Western culture, they have the Western democracy culture, right? It's like a G7 or G8, whatever you call it, right? They should sit down around a table and talk about a method go against CCP China. I'm not trying to say that you guys can just work together to bring China down, to bring CCP down, because CCP is pretty sophisticated in dealing with international geopolitics, right? They're just playing around at the table. They're trying to be the boss. Watch you guys fight, right? There's an old Chinese saying, 坐山观虎斗, 坐山观虎斗, which means, they just let you guys fight. For example, CCP is eager to watch Donald Trump fight with, I don't know, whoever, the new prime minister of Canada is, but used to be Trudeau, right? Now Canada turned its back to America, turned its back to China and going against America, So they've been joking about, the new alliance has been formed, right? China, Russia, Canada against America, right? How terrible is that, right? And now in Canada, in America ourselves, right, in itself, we have the Republicans, fighting with Democrats. We have the government temporarily shut down. We talk about, the federal air. Many people there, for the air regulators, they're out of job. They have to, do their job without any payment. And maybe they're going on strikes in the future. So that will be terrible for the air safety, this and that. So Western people, now I'm living in the Western world for about 2 years already, right? So Western people, we tend to fight more. We tend to speak candidly about what's in our mind, right? But the Eastern people, the Eastern Asians, especially like demonize the CCP Asians, right? They tend to use more of a sophisticated strategy. They will say, "Oh, you're my good friend from the surface," right? But they will backstab you. That they're untrustworthy. Believe me, because I know Chinese tactics. As I'm one of the Chinese, right? Even though I do not believe CCP, but I understand too well about my own culture. So basically, you guys, we have to unite. The Western world, we have to unite to really sit down on the table collectively to bring up a plan. Go against CCP China. Many of you guys were saying, "Oh, you're Chinese, right? Why you want to fight your own race?" No, like I said, I don't like how many times I need to justify myself, right? Justify my own claims, right? I'm not against my own race, nor my own people, nor my own culture. I love my culture. I'm proud of being ethnically Chinese. I'm just against the CCP, Chinese Communist Party. That's what I'm talking about, because CCP actually do not grant our freedom. CCP would prevent me from writing lyrics. They will just censor the lyrics like KISS, censor it out. Beep. You were not even allowed to praise Xi Jinping, never to mention to criticize Xi Jinping. Even you mention the name Xi in the Chinese social network, right? Your account might be banned. At least, they will shadow ban you, This is crazy. I love the peaceful rising of Chinese culture and Chinese people like I'm doing right now. The peaceful rising in a respectful way. Doesn't mean that, if I rise up, you should, kneel down to me like a slave. No, I want to respect everybody. But I have to be respected, right? What's what we call mutual respect, right? Not in a way to say, we CCP the greatest, we squash everybody, we kill everybody. No, that's not a fair game. That's against my own philosophy, because if you're there to kill the enemy like that, you're there to squash your enemy like that, you will also squash your own people like that. This is not humanity. This is not human rights. This is pure censorship and pure bullshit. So anyway, we're living in a chaotic world. We're living in the bad times, evil times, but we still need to have faith. We need to restore faith for the world order. So people from Japan, from Korea, from America, from Canada, from Western Europe, you set it together to form a table. You find a collective way to negotiate connectively with Xi Jinping to have a better price. If you're fighting with each other, this and that, you know what? Xi Jinping is a backstage boss, laughing like that. I'm gonna, maybe this is for, maybe this will be for my thumbnail. I don't know, something like that. Xi Jinping will behave like that, and that will be terrible. We do not want a dictator like that. He is a powerful leader. There's no blinking effect, and many world leaders will say something good about him, including Donald Trump. Donald Trump will always say, oh, Xi Jinping is a good friend of mine, right? However, right, you guys be aware, this guy is a dictator. He is powerful. There's no blinking effect that he is indeed powerful. However, powerful in an evil way, powerful in a powerful way, powerful in a way that deprives people of their own human rights in his own country. How powerful is that? Do you really want to be that powerful? Think about it. Okay, see you for the next episode. See you guys. Bye-bye.